either way.
Hmm. It must be really hard to get the timing right because if you're, doing it all in your bedroom and just getting, a couple of local gigs and you, as you say, it comes like, I haven't the money to invest in all this, but then you might accidentally become viral and then you lose the money that you could have got because you're not set up. So it must be very difficult to know when to make it done professionally. I create clear thinking and decisive leaders who can amplify their influence. Contact me to find out how I can help you or your organisation. And today our guest is Carter Fox. How you doing, Carter?
I'm doing great, Judith. Thank you for having me today.
You're welcome. Now, Carter, I know you're all about the music. What's the sort of music that you like?
Oh, that's a great question. I love all kinds of music, which is such an unfair answer, but I do love all kinds. I love R&B. I tour with Freddie Jackson and play bass for him, and I actually grew up. He's like my father's favorite artist, so I grew up listening to him. I really love smooth jazz. Grover Washington Jr. and Dave Koz and Gerald Veasley. And I really like rock music too. Like give me Metallica, give me the Rolling Stones, give me all that kind of stuff too. And the Beach Boys, I kind of like everything.
So you can like be taken anywhere, can't you?
Oh yeah. Yeah. My friends love to invite me out to many different kinds of shows.
And you worked with Freddie Jackson too.
Yes. Oh yes. And I still do. We're still going to be on the road not this month, but next month. This year we'll be on the road. I've been playing with him for since 2016 already. So 8 years. It's been my absolute honor and pleasure. I mean, he picked up a 25-year-old, young kid just being like, I play bass. And he's like, let's go. We're on the road. We're all going across the world. And, it really has opened up a whole world for me. And what's funny is before that, so I played with him in 2016, but since 2014, so 2 years before that, I started running his social media. So that's kind of like my intro to him in a real world capacity was, hey, I'm gonna build your Facebook page and manage your social media accounts and help you communicate with your fans that way. And it's really been such an amazing resurgence and experience and reconnecting for him to watch him grow his channel. He has 300,000 Facebook followers for himself now. Like, what an amazing thing where he can just come and have a whole platform and find all of his fans. It's really beautiful.
Yeah, I mean, you've got a bit of a weird kind of tag, haven't you? The soulful traveling spaceman bassman. What's that
Yes.
about?
Well, that's all about. So outside of performing with Mr. Jackson and playing in bands and doing that, I have my own brand and my own music and my entire own identity, which is Carter Fox and the Soulful Traveler and Soulful Traveling Spaceman, Bassman, which all is the same thing. And it came about from a friend of mine and social media just kind of being like, hey, you call yourself the Soulful Traveler. It's just kind of what you are. It's who you are. But you're also all about space and this thing. You are also the spaceman, bassman, And I was just kind of like, I like this. I like this a lot. And he's a guitarist, and his name, shout out Damn Stargazers, Dan Morell, who I've released much music with. He's the one who came up with that too. He's a marketing brain kind of guy. And I'm like, yeah. And since then, people just love it because it makes you question, what is that? It makes you vibe with it, if you will. It also is like, oh, I like space. I'm a soulful, I'm a soulful person. It's a very inviting kind of community thing.
Hmm. All right then. So we're reading all the time about how difficult it is for artists, especially musicians, to make money with streaming and all that kind of stuff. And one of the ways, I guess, if people can stand out, if they can have the right brand, they've got a better chance of success. What do you think the role of branding is in terms of artists' success?
It is one of the most, it's a key. It's one of the
Mm,
keys to success, right? Having your brand identity, having your identity as well as consistency is the other piece of that success.
right.
Um, knowing who you are or what you represent, so you can then put that to the world, communicate to that world, research, using market research. If you take that step, using market research to kind of find where your fan base to connect with that is. It's the way you're going to invite your hand out there. So it's going to be the way you kind of craft your social media content. It's your visuals. It's the styles of music. It's how you're dressed. It's what you're saying. It's who you're targeting if you're running ads. It's all these things. That's having your brand identity and your branding aspects all put together and consistent across live performance, music releases, social media websites, so people know it's you. It builds that community. I kind of said that a moment ago with the spaceman baseman stuff, but like it's all about that community. It's all about bringing that togetherness so people come in and support what you're about, and having that brand down is what it's about, right? It's why Beyonce can have her Beehive and Taylor Swift has her Swifties, and I have Soulful Travelers, and Freddie has his love crew, and every it's just how you go from, hey, just randomly releasing things to a fully organized, intentional community.
Assumingly, though, you need talent, right? So you can't just, or the branding must go with having the talent.
Yes. Well, that's the number one thing I think when it comes to the music business, is remembering that the product, yes, is yourself, but it's the music, right? And I try to tell people when I work with them professionally and clients, I love playing with great music, but when we're doing marketing stuff and strategy and trying to come up with realistic goals, yes, it comes down to having great music. And I don't think, you can people love to say, music's not good and things that are getting successful isn't good, but like music that blows up online and does really viral, and things that connect with people on a major scale, there's something to it. And when there's something, there's talent behind even people who you don't think are talented.
Mm.
That's really like the truth of it. Like the way I like to think about that sometimes too is like, hey, if you're the worst player in the NFL or in the Premier League or something, you're still really good, right? Like you're great because you're still a professional and you're still almost on top, but you may not be the top. You have to be great to get there. So yes, starting with great music is definitely what you have to do.
Okay, so I'm a bit curious. So, um, social media like TikTok, which has like a sample of music that people then either dance to or use as a meme, so the music, I guess, is heard so many millions of times, but it's only like, I don't know, 30 seconds of music. Does do the artists make money from those 30 seconds being played constantly? And I also wonder whether people then go, I like those 30 seconds, I'm actually going to buy or stream the entire track. Does that happen, or does it people just go, that was nice bit of music, and then the music gets kind of tied to the meme that's happening at that moment?
Well, you'll kind of have instances of both, but there's definitely a big conversion of what's that song behind the meme, the thing, right? Like, Booth. I can't remember his name right now. Russell Thompson or something. This is my little Booth thing. That Phyllis Hyman sample, right? Like,
Yeah.
it was viral, and now it's in Infinity commercials, like it's in car commercials. Like it was huge because people caught that 30 seconds, loved it, and it converted. And the answer to the other question is yes, an artist, well, it depends kind of really. If it's one of those instances where it's not released, it's not part of the systems, it's not in PRS, it's not in part of a performance rights organization being collected, there's really no money yet to be made from a royalty aspect. It'd be more some kind of direct conversion, like, hey, you went viral on something, buy a concert ticket, buy a sweatshirt, put the song out, which this has happened a lot on TikTok, especially a little lesser probably in the last year, but like 2020 to 2023, this was happening a lot where artists were going viral. The music was not out. It was almost a marketing, and it still is a marketing strategy to tease it that way, build hype, and then you drop the song, you release the song, and people go and listen to it. They pre-saved. And now it's just as viral from that 30-second clip that meme aspect, uh, all that. And if it's a release song, there's a lot of stuff that's gone viral after the fact, like the song from Stranger Things and, a lot of older songs. They go viral. There's collection happening for that song being streamed, if you will, being broadcasted through TikTok, through Instagram, through any of the social, through YouTube. And as the artist and the songwriter, depending on however the contracts and the money flows, the label to you, you get paid. So if you had a song go viral and it's out and you got all your publishing together, you're getting money from that. And it's very probably similar to streaming royalties, not a lot per, but if you're getting millions upon millions of fractional cents, it's going to at least be something.
Yeah, because
Yeah.
I mean, there's been many, well-known musicians and artists who've come out to say, they made their money on concerts and tours and records. Whereas if you were going to start today, it'd be very hard because even the really famous artists who haven't taken control of the entire process aren't making money through the streaming. So I'm just wondering if you're somebody out there that goes, right, I'm a great artist, singer, songwriter, or whatever. How do they actually break? Do you know what I mean? How do they make their money? How do they turn it into a business now that the world has changed?
So I think we're kind of touching on a little bit with what you said with the other artists who haven't taken control of everything, but
Mm.
that's almost the aspect of it first, right? Like take control, an independent career doesn't mean alone, but it means understanding and making your decisions across your board. So a record label in the old days, in the 70s, the 50s, the 80s, the 90s, even, they're giving artists a bunch of money, and that money's going towards the recording, the mixing, the mastering, the marketing, any other process. And there's a lot of overhead there. Now, if you take it nowadays, between all the different technological advances and different businesses out there of different kinds, everything has come down a lot for artists. So like you can make there's been number one albums and records made in bedrooms and attics now, right? Instead of multi-million-dollar studio.
Mm.
Billie Eilish, for example, right? Like Gautier, another one. Plenty more out there. So just understanding that aspect and creating a professional product, or even investing to do that, spending $1,000 or so. But it's understanding that process, getting into then your actual publishing, if you will, and that's what we were just talking about, how to make any money from your streams or from your songwriting and your music publishing, as they call it. But if you get your song on a commercial or in TV and in radio, when it's getting played on radio, you get money through this as well. Then it becomes about your investment and your push and your monetization. Those are all your like foundation aspects, if you will. So having your publishing all set up, being registered with a performance rights organization, having your music ready to collect when you have 1 million streams or get something is important to do before you actually become successful, because then you'll miss out on the money anyway. It'll become a chasing thing. Then you enter into wise promotion. So if you're smart about booking, so yes, a lot of artists back in the day and even today can make a decent living off of touring if it's done sensibly and makes sense. Not everything, even a lot of regional artists and even some major artists still have a hard time breaking even on tour, because there is a lot of overhead for traveling and hotels and crew, and depending on how the venues work out, it just is what it is. If you're able to push back, it kind of just becomes a self-feeding thing. So then you start reinvesting into yourself. You're promoting out into streams, you're promoting out into press, so you can build up to make more money on tour, as well as increase radio and streaming airplay, as well as gain sync opportunities, which you can research and do independently through services like Taxi, Critical Music, and a few different things, as well as like BMG Production Music. And having all this kind of happening, that's where you're starting to see money come back. Because I know it may sound complicated and a lot of things going on, but that's a business for you. You become the business. Now, again, goal setting is also important. If you want to, this is all for the pop artist kind of thing, the world touring, top art level artists. If you're like, hey, I want to become a musician this is totally fine. I want to be like a top singing cover artist and make $100,000 a year, and you can tour, play regional theaters, sell those out because you're doing Beatles tributes, you're doing Beach Boys tributes, you're doing certain era tributes. That's a whole nother economy you can approach, which can be highly successful and in different ways. You can also release, Postmodern Jukebox kind of has that whole thing where they went super viral for doing those retro covers of songs. And now they're also, which gave them a whole presence, YouTube monetization, ad money, merch sales. That's the other aspect of all this, right? Of making all that money. And now actually tour theaters and big venues and sell out all those kind of things, make the whole living. So, if your listener is listening and is like, hey, how do I do that? Just rewind that whole 5-minute section and just like, take that transcription and be like, okay, there's the thing. Get your publishing straight, figure out what it is, set your goal if you want to be an original act or a both, or what kind of venues you're looking to play, and then take the leap and get out there. And you just got to get out there, be it being in the room all the time, being out at all the shows and being very social, or being online, being present, going on live and playing your instrument and singing and performing and engaging. It's still all very socially active either way.
Hmm. It must be really hard to get the timing right, because if you're, doing it all in your bedroom and just getting, a couple of local gigs, and as you say, it comes like, I haven't the money to invest in all this, but then you might accidentally become viral and then you lose the money that you could have got because you're not set up. So it must be very difficult to know when to make it done professionally. So Carter Fox Consulting, is that venture all about helping the artist to get everything set up?
It can be. And it's actually it really does full ranges. So I do offer music business services because I have such a experience in doing so for myself and a lot of artists independently, and even some majors working at a music publisher. I do help artists set up their back end, if you will, right? Their performance rights organization stuff, their music publishing, if they haven't have anything set up, how to register with Sound Exchange and how to collect royalties and educate them on that kind of thing. Carter Fox Consulting also takes care of marketing strategy and branding strategy for music releases, tours, just in general, music business opportunities in general. So like if a music publisher wanted to kind of work on their branding and get out there, I've done work with various music publishers, labels, even smaller businesses, like restaurants actually, and podcasts as well, even helping people just get out there. I think that's the number one thing we do is we help you get out there. That's like my main slogan, my main internal slogan from 15 years ago. But really, yes, I'm here and Carter Fox Consulting, my whole team is here to educate and innovate and help creatives get out there and be in the future.
Okay. All right, and that's good to know. So we've looked at, being out there and becoming more visible. What about making sure that your career is actually sustainable?
That involves can continue, and that's where all this kind of comes together. It's kind of a continual reinvestment and a continual check-in and update of yourself just to maintain your connection, to maintain what you're doing. Again, it's a very social kind of business, so you want to just be involved. But you want to just kind of keep having a plan, keep creating music, keeping your merch stuff up there, keeping your networking going, and resetting goals. Even like if you're being open to even newer innovations. Even so, if you're looking to tour, you want to tour. You're not sure how to tour. If you're an independent artist and you're like, I need to get an agent, but you're not ready. You're not at the point where you need an agent yet.
Yeah.
There are some independent apps out there. I'm going to put a recommendation. It's called bookingagent.io. Booking-agent.io, I think, is the official site. It's a very cool site. You can get talent bookers of all different levels. It's similar to another one is like the Indie Bible, I think the Indie Bible is one that had a bunch of venues as well. They have a Music Business Connect. But it's, again, the best way to build a sustainable career in the music business is just continual involvement, I think is the best simple way to put it. Uh, Whether you evolve from continuing to release music and being artists to using your connections to form other businesses such as management, if you've really had a strong success in booking yourself in a career and your band and something early on, you can evolve into forming a booking agency. Depending on what kind of connections you had, that booking agency could even evolve into a production house, put on your own shows, put on different kinds of shows, it very put on festivals in your community, all that lead to grants, you could get grants for this kind of stuff for your business and for the festival, which again, just building more sustainable kind of things. Even that's even how Carter Fox Consulting and this book and everything kind of came about was, my career started at age 15. I was playing at 19. At 18, I was in college and I found a record label because I was putting out other people's records and my own in high school. And that really helped me meet a lot of people and just continue to build out different ways to build a career and sustain myself. And I've been Freddie Jackson's bassist because I also was a social media marketer before, which came about because when I was young and the timing was right because my generation is the MySpace generation, I started building MySpaces for artists back in high school and businesses. So while I was putting out my own music. So sustainability in the music business, just it takes creativity, innovation, and your hustle.
Mm. So the ability to turn your hand on whatever's required, really, isn't it?
Yes. And that's the best way to do. You got to be, change is a constant, right? The only constant in life is change, and just being more open than not to things. Like, we all get stuck in our ways, of course, about different stuff and different aspects of life. But just remembering to catch yourself and be like, cool, no, like, if an artist in 2020 who, a lot of the big artists who were able to convert from the tour into live streaming right away, like, there was a huge buildup on that. I know there was a huge loss of profit, income in general when artists couldn't tour for like the good couple of years. But if you're live streaming and you're building yourself up on YouTube, and all of a sudden, boom, you got your ad revenue. There's a whole new, you started a podcast with your band during that time. All of a sudden, that could be more successful of a business and drive more sponsors and different things, which I've seen happen as well for artists in the last 4 years. Because they were just open and made a pivot and were willing to. And again, TikTok is another great example of just people using, like, hey, I'm willing to go share myself on TikTok live and do that, which takes courage and takes time. But they have, a bass player friend of mine has 100,000 followers on there just from doing that. And I'm like, that is a great strategy. And he's doing, and it, again, just for doing that has, he's got a couple TikTok awards now. I didn't know that was, TikTok creator awards, right? Like, amazing. And has been flying out to places and it's just found a complete new fan base by running with new technology like that.
Brilliant. Before we end for today, is there anything that you want to say or leave with the audience?
Just keep chasing your dreams.
Perfect. Carter, thank you so much for coming on the show.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me, Judith. It was wonderful.
You're welcome. And thank you out there for tuning into the Maverick Paradox podcast. I'm your host, Judith Germain, and I hope you've enjoyed today's conversation.
The Maverick Paradox Magazine. The Maverick Paradox Magazine is for the pathologically curious. Written by a swagger of socialized mavericks who are divergent thinkers, the magazine tackles the biggest issues affecting maverick leaders today. You might be a business owner or a leader within an organization who wants to have your thinking challenged, to be exposed to a diversity of thought, or to learn from diverse experts in their fields. If so, the Maverick Paradox Magazine is for you. Join the swagger at themaverickparadox.com and engage in the conversation.